Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching the News Hour special edition with me, Priya Bahal. Today, it has been 12 days since Pahalgam terror attack. Why is this significant? Because it was exactly 12 days after 40 braves were martyred in Kulgam attack that Indian Air Force jets had bombed Jaish training camps in Balakot. So when will Pahalgam be avenged? That is a question that everyone is asking, and clearly the clock is ticking for Pakistan. Centre is actively plotting the payback plan, and it is clear from back-to-back meetings between PM and top security apparatus. Yesterday, it was the Navy Chief. Today, a one-on-one with Air Chief. Remember, these meetings, one-on-one meetings, are extremely significant because there are multiple layers of security personnel in between. There is a Raksha Mantri, there is NSA, there is a Chief of Defence Forces. And despite that, if PM is making an effort to meet every head of force one-on-one, you can understand the kind of importance that is being given to our plan ahead. Simultaneously, all Pakistani imports have been blocked. India has also started flexing the water might by cutting the Chenab water flow through Baglihar Dam after Indus Treaty halt. However, neither of these moves count for Indian opposition. The largest opposition party, day after day, resorts to gimmicks that honestly leave one aghast. It was with a sense of utter disbelief that I first saw Congress UP chief Ajay Rai today brandishing a toy plane to play a political game that frankly is beyond any sensible person's comprehension.
अनुज जी, ये मैंने नहीं बांधा है। ये देश के रक्षा मंत्री ने, आपको ध्यान होगा कि जब राफेल हिंदुस्तान के पास आया, जब रक्षा मंत्री जी गए थे तो उन्होंने नींबू मिर्चा बांधा था, और नींबू मिर्चा सरकार ने बांधा है। मैं तो वही बता रहा हूं, को याद दिला रहा हूं कि नींबू मिर्चे कब हटेंगे और ये राफेल अपना कब काम करेगा। ये देश की जनता जानना चाहती है। जो परिवार शहीद हुआ, उसकी पत्नी, उसके बच्चे, उसके माँ बाप जानना चाहते हैं कि ये राफेल नींबू मिर्चा बांधने के लिए आया है या अपना काम करने के लिए, कि नींबू मिर्चा सरकार ने बांधकर राफेल को खड़ा किया हुआ है।
Is this how responsible opposition behaves, especially in sensitive times like these? Is this what the Congress Working Committee that met just 2 days ago resolved to do? What did they mean by mentioning phrases like, this is not a time for politics, this moment calls for unity, one must rise above partisan divides in their resolution? Here is BJP's take.
26/11 के बाद मनमोहन सिंह जी की सरकार ने कहां नींबू मिर्च बांधा था। ये वही पार्टी है जिसने मोस्ट फेवर्ड नेशन का स्टेटस पाकिस्तान को दे रखा था।
के बाद एक हर कांग्रेस नेता हमारी फोर्सेस को अपमानित कर रहा है, डीमोरलाइज कर रहा है या पाकिस्तान को कवर फायर दे रहा है। इसीलिए आज स्पष्ट हो चुका है कि इंडियन नेशनल कांग्रेस एक पाकिस्तानी कांग्रेस हो चुकी है, जो आसिफ मुनीर का एजेंडा चला रही है और आसिफ मुनीर का स्पोक्स पर्सन बन चुकी है।
And even as we speak about politics surrounding Pahalgam, we've got a latest development coming in from Jammu and Kashmir's Kulgam area. Remember, forces have been conducting combing operations as well as questioning the suspects to get more details of the involvement of terrorists in Pahalgam attacks. And in that process, an overground worker who claimed to know the location of 2 terror hideouts had been picked up for questioning. Now, the visuals that are playing out on your screens are the visuals that were captured by a drone camera, where you can see a man who's wearing an orange t-shirt jumping into the flowing waters. So what has happened is, an overground worker who claimed to know the location of 2 terror hideouts, his body was found in the Vishor River. Now, PDP and National Conference are claiming that innocent local civilians are being targeted by armed forces and are demanding a thorough probe into the death of this man.
ये बड़ी बदकिस्मती की बात है, क्योंकि छोटा लड़का जो बेचारा मजदूरी करता था, एक गरीब घर से ताल्लुक़ रखता था, अभी 15 दिन पहले ही ये वापस आया है बाहर से मजदूरी करके। कुछ दिन पहले, 2 दिन पहले इसको ले गए जो भी पार्टी थी, और फिर घर वाले भी गए किसी कैंप में था ये भी बाग, वहाँ पे उससे बात की है और उन्होंने कहा हम इसको छोड़ देंगे। लेकिन आज सुबह जब लोग उठे तो उनको इन्फॉर्म किया गया कि कोई डेड बॉडी जो है वो किसी नाले में है। दहशत का माहौल जो है वो पैदा किया जा रहा है और मैं आपके माध्यम से एलजी साहब को गुजारिश करना चाहूँगी कि ये जो इम्तियाज़ अहमद हैं जिसको घर से लिया गया और बाद में उसकी लाश जो है उसको बरामद किया गया है, इसको जुडिशियल इंक्वायरी जो है वो होनी चाहिए।
All right, now you heard a minister in Jammu and Kashmir government. She referred to the man who has died by suicide as Bechara and Mazdoor. Now let's tell you what the police sources are saying. Times now has spoken to the security forces and have accessed details of what actually transpired according to the cops. Police say that a search and cordon operation had been launched, and in that operation, this overground worker jumped into the Vishaw Nala and tried to escape via river route. However, later his dead body was found, and now legal proceedings have begun on this matter. My colleague Suhail, who is the one who has accessed all this inside track from police sources, is now joining us on the broadcast. Suhail, put the sequence of events in perspective for our viewers. Who do we believe?
Well, first of all, today in the evening, the dead body of Imtiaz Ahmad Magre, who is said to be around 23 years, was recovered from this Vishaw Nala. He is a resident of Tangmarg of South Kashmir's Kulgam district. The family, in fact, is alleging that he was picked up by security forces before days for questioning, and then this particular claim in fact stands admitted by the security forces, at least the sources we spoke to, and there in the security forces, in fact the sources are telling us that Imtiaz Ahmad Magre, who was 23-year-old, a resident of Tangmarg in South Kashmir's Kulgam district, was working as an OGW worker, and during questioning he had confessed about knowledge of two hideouts with presence of two Pakistani terrorists. So one hideout was already busted in the same area, in the same village, by security forces soon after Pahalgam terror attack that took place on 22nd in Baisaram Valley. On 23rd of April, there was search operation. There was in fact an exchange of gunfire between security forces and terrorists, and later on a hideout was busted in Tangmarg area of Kulgam district, but now the security forces and the source within the security forces tell us that this Imtiaz Ahmad had confessed during the questioning that he had knowledge of both the terror hideouts, one busted by the security forces and other having presence of two terrorists. Then today morning there was coordinated search operation launched, and this OGW was in fact was taken to the area where he had hinted that there is an hideout with presence of two terrorists. A drone camera was basically pressed into service to keep an eye or keep all this area under surveillance during the coordinated search operation. But in between the search operation, this Imtiaz Ahmad Magre, as per the drone camera footage we have accessed, jumped into Vishaw Nala. Police sources suggesting that he probably tried to escape via a river route, but in that process he died. His dead body was recovered by a team of police and there in Vishaw Nala. Locals were there also present. His body was basically taken to hospital after all medico-legal formalities that the body has been given to family for last rites. But what we are now witnessing after this incident, PDP Chief Mehbooba Mufti demanding an investigation into the matter. At the same time, talking about Badipura encounter wherein a top LET commander was basically killed by the security forces after Pahalgam terror attack, raising questions over that in fact encounter as well. And Education Minister in Omar Abdullah government, who is basically MLA from the same area, Sakina Itu, also demanding judicial probe, alleging that an atmosphere of intimidation has been created in Kashmir Valley. But what we know from the sources within the security forces that this Imtiaz Ahmad was working as OGW, and he had about having knowledge of two terror hideouts. One was already busted by security forces on April 23, and second hideout was, in fact, that search operation was initiated today, and during that search operation, he jumped into Nala Vesho there in Kulgam and tried to escape, but he died.
Right. Thank you, Suhail, for giving us a very, very detailed account of what the security forces are saying has happened. Let me also tell our viewers what Mehbooba Mufti has said about this. She says, and I quote, "Yet another body recovered from a river in Kulgam, raising serious allegations of foul play. Locals allege that Imtiaz Magre was picked up by the army 2 days ago, and now mysteriously his body has surfaced in the river. The recent attack in Pahalgam appears to be a calculated attempt to derail the fragile peace, disrupt tourism and undermine communal harmony. If a single act of violence can shake the entire system, triggering arbitrary arrests, home demolitions and a targeting of innocent civilians, then perpetrators have already achieved their objective." So Mehbooba Mufti has already decided who is innocent for her, how the arrests are arbitrary, and demolitions are also against humanity. So who exactly do we believe? I would have liked to start our debate with what Ajay Rai did, but if we were not left tongue-tied with what he was doing, now I have Mehbooba Mufti and the likes of Miss Sakina, a minister in a national conference, about which I'll have to ask my guest right now. Joining me is Sanju Verma, national spokesperson of the BJP, Dr. Rajan Kochar. He's a VSM, Defense and Strategic Affairs expert. And Advocate Kapil Madan is with us, and Professor Dharmendra Yadav, spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party, is with us. Major General Rajan Kochar, in situations like these, how does one decide who to believe? There is a Mehbooba Mufti and there is a minister of Jammu and Kashmir government who say innocent, bechara, mazdoor, targeted by forces, an atmosphere of intimidation being created. There are the police sources who say we had caught him. He confessed he was an overground worker, and I checked with our reporter. It's not even like he was suspected to be an overground worker. He was an overground worker. He knew of 2 hideouts, one of which had been busted, which means his information was credible. And then drone cameras have captured what our viewers are seeing on their screens. Now, I can't even imagine if there were no drone cameras, the kind of narrative that would have been spun around this.
Thank you, Priya, for inviting me to this discussion. I'm not surprised because, I've been hearing this right from surgical strikes 2016. Where people wanted proof of what the army did. This is the time where all these political parties have to unite. There is a protocol in the services, the way the Indian Army operates, the way the police operates, and that protocol must be allowed to be done without any political interference. Today, I am seeing these kind of statements emanating from senior political leaders. I think they need to do some introspection. They need to see what the nation is facing today. We are Indians first, remember that. And subsequently, we may be Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs and Christians. So I think, in my opinion, this is not the time to score political brownie points. You have your electorate. I know you want to appeal to your electorate for your votes, for your shallow gains. It is now time to rise above all these things and strengthen the hands of the security forces. See, every statement of yours in the state weakens the resolve of the security forces because you are trying to build a public opinion, you are trying to build a narrative saying that the security forces are not doing their job properly. And Priya, as you rightly said, if the drones were not there, then how do we prove to these people that what the security forces did was a correct thing? And I would also like to add here, the family of this gentleman who was an OGW must realize, instead of asking for a judicial probe and things like this, they must realize what their children are doing, what kind of harm they are causing to the nation. And when we talk about you targeting their houses, it is based on specific intelligence inputs. It is not done in a manner that whatever we like to do, we are going to do it. We are going to do it with specific intelligence inputs. So these are the important factors I would like to highlight here. I can see the guests are from various political parties.
Yes.
And I would like to appeal to them. This is the time for all of you to come together with the armed forces, to come together with the government, and also send a message to Pakistan. Because moment you speak this language here, the Pakistan media picks it up and tries to build another narrative
more
there.
importantly, imagine what it does to the morale of the forces. Now, you have this team of security personnel who are putting their lives at stake as they go with somebody who has information about terrorist hideouts, and then instead of talking about the operation or probably looking into the cordoning of the area, etc., they have to answer questions like, did you kill an overground worker? Advocate Kapil Madan, I would bring you in, but before that, let me quote Aga Syed Ruhullah Mehndi. He is a Srinagar MP. He has said, Kashmiris cannot be treated as collateral damage. Custodial deaths, killings and torture are violations of every democratic and legal principle. How does he reach the conclusion that this was an arbitrary detention, custodial killing and torture? That video playing out on your screens doesn't show any of that.
Right.
And this is conclusive.
Let me just say one thing. Yes, Priya, let me just, make my point very clear. I agree with what, Major General Kochhar have said, that, at this point in time, we should stand shoulder and shoulder with our armed forces, and we should totally agree, and we should, support them in whatever endeavor they have in order to curb, these kind of illegal, nefarious and terrorist activities. Having said that, I will just make only one point here. If someone has, died either by a suicide, whether he was a part of a terrorist organization, how would the family ultimately would know? This would happen only once there is a judicial probe which will confirm what the armed forces are saying. So I am saying in a given situation like this, I am not saying you please discard the version of the army. I am not saying that. I am saying if there is a judicial probe, that will further strengthen what the army is saying. And in fact, the family members and all these politicians who are raising voice, in fact, they will also get an answer that here there was a person who was involved in illicit and nefarious and terror activities, and therefore
Mr.
there
Madan,
was
the
an action.
problem, nobody is questioning an investigation. It has already started. Suhail told us. The question is, the problem is with people who reach a verdict before the probe starts. To say कि ये बेचारा मजदूर था, जब वो एक terrorist hideout के बारे में बता चुका है and is guiding them to the other one, how do these people know conclusively कि ये बेचारा मजदूर था? And OGW nahi tha?
I'm saying. Yes, in fact, I was just trying to say what you are saying. I am, putting forward your, point of view. I am saying, yes, in fact, these statements made by these politicians also is premature. And the fact that you need to prove that their statements is premature and whatever they're saying is factually incorrect, what will be the basis on which you will say it? Ultimately, you have investigative agencies, you have intelligence, etc. But, there is something called a judicial probe, which will further, say what the intelligence
but
agencies
Mr. Madan, Sanju Verma, would Mr. Madan be still saying this if we did not have video footage that is playing out on the screens right now?
Priya, first and foremost, thank you so much for playing this video footage, because video footage ke baad, दूध का दूध और पानी का पानी हो गया है. Anybody with even an IQ of 50 can understand that the security forces have done nothing which is under the board. Point number one. Point number two, as Major General Kocher rightly said, each time we raise doubts about the bona fides of an investigation, we raise doubts about the bona fides of how security forces should have handled a given situation. We are undermining the credibility of our jawans. We are undermining the credibility of our forces at a time when all of us, cutting through political affiliations, should be speaking in one voice. And Priya, let me make one thing very clear. This is not the first time this has happened, be it Mehbooba Mufti of the PDP or the Congress. Look at the kind of language that is being used. Mehbooba Mufti, abhi 24 घंटे हुए नहीं थे, and she said, why blame Pakistan? Pakistan के खिलाफ भला क्या proof है, क्या प्रमाण है? And then you had Robert Vadra of the Congress. He's not some random person in the Congress. He is the brother-in-law of Rahul Gandhi and the son-in-law of Sonia Gandhi and the husband of Priyanka Vadra. And he's on record saying, जो हुआ 22 अप्रैल को पहलगाम में, that happened because Muslims are made to feel insecure and weak in India. Nothing could be more shameful. And then you have Siddaramaiah, sitting chief minister of the Congress party in Karnataka, clearly saying, Pakistan ko clean chit de do. Manishankar, a former minister under the previous Congress dispensation, is saying, why blame Pakistan? Pahalgam terror attack happened because of unresolved issues pertaining to the partition of 1947. And I can go on and on. Then you have somebody like Saifuddin Soz, who was also earlier a minister in the Congress government. He's saying, bhai, Pakistan ko kyun kasurwar ठहराया जा रहा है? Please give a clean chit to Pakistan. The same thing was said by Vijay Wadattiwar, who was earlier LOP in the Maharashtra Assembly and is currently a sitting MLA of the Congress party in Maharashtra. He's saying, आपको कैसे पता Hindus were targeted? Do you think terrorists have the time to ask somebody their religion, making a mockery of the 26 people who died?
And all that, Sanju Verma, came despite the testimonies. So right now, धर्मेंद्र जी, जब आपकी स्क्रीन पर चल रहा है कि ये एक आदमी आपको दिख रहा है, it just so happens that this has been caught on drone cameras, how that man is jumping off his own volition. जितना ये वीडियो आया है, इसमें तो कहीं नहीं दिख रहा है कि किसी ने उसको मारा, पीटा, धक्का दिया. कैसे आपको लगता है कि जो सैयद रुहुल्ला जी हैं, जो श्रीनगर के एमपी हैं, बकायदा इलेक्टेड हैं, उनको आर्बिट्रेरी डिटेंशन, कस्टोडियल किलिंग और टॉर्चर दिखता है इसमें?
प्रिया जी, भारतीय जनता पार्टी का जो स्वभाव रहा है शुरू से लेकर के, वो झूठ बोलने का और गुमराह करने का, और जो आप क्लिप दिखा रही हैं, मीडिया की क्रेडिबिलिटी पर भी अगर कोई सवाल उठा रहा है तो इसका मतलब उसकी जवाबदेही जिम्मेदारी मीडिया की भी होनी चाहिए.
क्रेडिबिलिटी नहीं, ये तो पुलिस का ड्रोन फुटेज है सर. जब भी हमारा नहीं है, हमारे कैमरा का नहीं है.
पुलिस ने क्यों? हाँ, तो पुलिस ने, आप सुन, आपको पूरा फुटेज लेना चाहिए था ना. आप इतना पर्टिकुलर पोर्शन ही दिखा के मुझसे अगर पूछने लगेंगी तो मैं उसमें कोई कमेंट नहीं कर पाऊंगा, किसी कंक्लूजन पे नहीं पहुंच पाऊंगा.
नहीं, तो
सवाल ये उठता है कि
आप बहुत समझदार हैं, इसीलिए आप कंक्लूजन पर नहीं पहुंच पा रहे हैं. लेकिन महबूबा मुफ्ती, सैयद रुहुल्ला और सकीना इटू सब कंक्लूजन पे पहुंच चुके हैं ऑलरेडी. वो कह रहे हैं कि खौफ का माहौल पैदा किया जा रहा है, इंटिमिडेशन.
भारतीय जनता पार्टी के सहयोगी थे वो. भारतीय जनता, प्रिया जी, पीडीपी भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सहयोगी रही है और भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने सरकार की मलाई खाने के लिए किसी तरह के भी समझौते किए हैं. उन्होंने राष्ट्र के साथ भी समझौता किया, बॉर्डर सिक्योरिटी के साथ समझौता किया. बॉर्डर सिक्योरिटी ब्रीच पर आज भी भारतीय जनता पार्टी की तरफ से देश के प्रधानमंत्री या देश के गृह मंत्री की तरफ से कोई प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस नहीं की गई आधिकारिक तौर पर, ना ही कोई जिम्मेदारी लेने की बात कही गई.
तो आप मान रहे हैं ना कि गलत होता है, गलत किया. महबूबा मुफ्ती जी तो कह रही है वो गलत है.
सुन लीजिए मेरी बात, 10 सेकंड मेरी बात सुन लीजिए. आपको कम से कम लोकल्स को कॉन्फिडेंस में लेना पड़ेगा. आप अगर इतने बड़े ऑपरेशंस की बात कर रहे हैं, हर एक कश्मीरी को आप शक की नजरों से नहीं देख सकते हैं, क्योंकि अगर आप हर एक कश्मीरी को शक की नजर से तो आपको सज्जाद.
कौन देख रहा है हर एक कश्मीरी को शक की नजर से? सर, कोई नहीं देख रहा है.
मेरी बात आने दीजिए ना. वही, यही तो कॉन्फिडेंस सरकार को दिलाना है, यही कॉन्फिडेंस सरकार को, पीडीपी को दिलाना है, महबूबा मुफ्ती जी को दिलाना है, एक दूसरे जो सांसद का नाम ले रहे हैं उनको दिलाना है, और जम्मू कश्मीर की आम आवाम को भी यही कॉन्फिडेंस दिलाना है। अगर इसको दिलाने में भारतीय जनता पार्टी फेल होती है, इसका मतलब डिप्लोमेटिकली भारतीय जनता पार्टी फेल हुई है।
ठीक है, संजू वर्मा आपका फेलियर है ये।
पूरी तरह से
महबूबा मुफ्ती अगर ये नहीं मान पा रही हैं कि डिपोर्टेशन ऑफ पाकिस्तानीज टू पाकिस्तान इज सम, इवन इफ इट इज इनह्यूमन एंड इट इज पाकिस्तान दैट इज टू ब्लेम फॉर व्हाट दे आर गोइंग थ्रू, अगर टेररिस्ट के घर गिराए जा रहे हैं तो वो इंफॉर्मेशन के बेसिस पे है, कोई इनोसेंट कश्मीरीज को टारगेट नहीं कर रहा है, ये बीजेपी का फेलियर है। आप समझा नहीं पा रहे हैं महबूबा मुफ्ती जी को।
You know, Priya, first and foremost, let me make one thing very clear. पीडीपी के साथ बीजेपी का जो अलायंस था वो 2018 में बीजेपी ने खुद तोड़ा। उस बात को अभी 7 साल हो चुके हैं। पहली बात तो ये। सेकंड पॉइंट, दिस इज नॉट अबाउट बीजेपी's erstwhile alliance with the PDP. This is about समाजवादी पार्टी स्पोक्सपर्सन sitting here and saying बीजेपी की नाकामयाबी। अरे भाई साहब, आप उस पार्टी के प्रतिनिधि हैं जिनके कर्ता धर्ता अखिलेश यादव ने संकट मोचन मंदिर में जब ब्लास्ट हुआ था वाराणसी में 2010 और 2012 में, जब अखिलेश यादव मुख्यमंत्री थे उत्तर प्रदेश के, अखिलेश यादव had the audacity to knock on the doors of the Allahabad High Court saying इंडियन मुजाहिदीन बेकसूर है। तो आप यहां बैठकर भारतीय जनता पार्टी को नैतिकता के सर्टिफिकेट बांटना, पहली बात तो बंद करिए। एंड लेट मी टेल यू, 2016 में एक सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक जब हुआ था, कांग्रेस के नुमाइंदे डिबेट पर आकर कहते थे मोदी सरकार को ये नहीं करना चाहिए था, ये तो दलाली है। प्लीज कीप क्वाइट, आई डिड नॉट
एवरीबॉडी विल गेट देयर टाइम। संजू वर्मा प्लीज फिनिश, देन धर्मेंद्र जी आप बोलिएगा।
मैं दोबारा दोहराना चाहती हूं, 2016 में जब सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक हुआ था प्रिया, यही समाजवादी पार्टी के नुमाइंदे, यही कांग्रेस पार्टी के नुमाइंदे जोर जोर से चिल्लाते थे डिबेट पर। मोदी सरकार को शाबाशी देना तो दूर की बात, दीज पीपल यूज्ड टू कम ऑन डिबेट्स एंड से हमें तो यकीन नहीं होता कि सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक हुई थी, ये तो बीजेपी सिर्फ अपने जुमलेबाजी में लगी हुई है। जब 2019
संजू वर्मा जी वो तो 6 साल बाद भी वही बोल रहे हैं,
तब भी आपने वही कहा। बालाकोट स्ट्राइक के दौरान भी आपने, अखिलेश यादव ने कहा हमें तो प्रूफ चाहिए, हमें तो बालाकोट स्ट्राइक का प्रमाण चाहिए। अभी कांग्रेस के हाल ही में चरणजीत सिंह चन्नी, राज्यसभा एमपी, बाद में उन्होंने अपने शब्द वापस लिए, बट ही सेड सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक का प्रूफ दिखाओ। व्हेन यू यूज दीज काइंड ऑफ फ्रेजेस, व्हेन टेंशंस आर ऑलरेडी रनिंग हाई, यू आर डूइंग डिससर्विस टू योर कंट्री, यू आर डूइंग डिससर्विस टू द आर्म्ड फोर्सेस। इसलिए समाजवादी पार्टी के प्रवक्ता को याद दिला दूं, शुभम द्विवेदी के बारे में जब अखिलेश यादव को पूछा गया, ही सेड मैं क्यों जाऊं शुभम द्विवेदी के घर परिवार से मिलने, मैं तो शुभम द्विवेदी को नहीं जानता। इसलिए नैतिकता पर भाषण देना बंद करिए।
ओके, धर्मेंद्र जी क्विक रिबटल। एंड जहां तक सबूत की बात है, चरणजीत सिंह चन्नी, उन्होंने बोला सीडब्ल्यूसी मीटिंग में ये रेजोल्यूशन लेने के बाद, वी स्टैंड विद द कंट्री, नोबडी शुड डू पार्टिसान पॉलिटिक्स। फर्स्ट थिंग, द मैन हु अटेंडेड दैट मीटिंग कम्स आउट एंड सेज हमें तो पता ही नहीं है कुछ हुआ, बम की आवाज तो आई नहीं फटने की, दैट वाजंट फ्रिवलस इनफ। बाद में उन्होंने बोला कि नहीं, कोई सबूत नहीं मांग रहा है कोई। आज प्रियांक खड़गे जी फिर से आगे सबूत मांगने हैं। लेटेस्ट एक आरजेडी के एमपी हैं सुधाकर सिंह जी, अब उनको भी बालाकोट का सबूत चाहिए। जी धर्मेंद्र जी अपना जवाब दीजिए, उसके बाद फिर हम बढ़ते हैं कि आज अजय राय जी ने क्या किया।
प्रिया जी, जम्मू कश्मीर के अंदर जब एक आतंकवादी को पुलिस ने पकड़ा तो वो आतंकवादी कौन था? भारतीय जनता पार्टी के आईटी सेल का पूर्व प्रमुख था, जो लश्कर तोयबा के लिए जासूसी कर रहा था। ये भारतीय जनता पार्टी का चरित्र है। दूसरा भारतीय जनता पार्टी का जो नेता है संजय सरोज, वो लश्कर तोयबा के लिए टेरर फंडिंग करता है। ये है भारतीय जनता पार्टी का चरित्र, देश के प्रति और देश के लोगों के प्रति, देश के नागरिकों के प्रति, देश के सेनाओं के प्रति जो सम्मान है, मैं बताना चाहता हूँ। अभी 10 सेकंड
नहीं जा रही हूँ, मतलब आप पुलिस पे भरोसा कर रहे हैं ना सर, कि पुलिस ने जिन लोगों को पकड़ा वो आतंकवादी हैं। तो अगर पुलिस फिर ये बोल रही है कि ये जो आदमी है जो आपको दिख रहा है कि पानी में बह गया और लाश 2 दिन बाद मिली, अगर पुलिस टाइम्स नाउ को ये बता रही है कि ये तो टेररिस्ट का ठिकाना बताने के लिए गया था और वहां पे बचने के लिए भागा इसलिए मर गया, तो फिर आप उसके लिए आपको जुडिशियल प्रोब एस्टैब्लिश करने की जरूरत है।
नहीं, मैंने आपको क्या कहा? मैंने कहा जो आपने क्लिप मुझे दिखाई, आपकी पुलिस से क्या कम्युनिकेशन हुई है मुझे नहीं पता है। आप क्लिप के बेसिस पे अगर मुझे पूछ रही हैं तो भी मैं कुछ नहीं बता सकता। मैं उस पर बता सकता हूं जो लश्कर तोयबा के लिए काम करता था और भारतीय जनता पार्टी के आईटी सेल का पूर्व प्रमुख था। उस पर सेना ने क्या कार्रवाई करी, उस पर भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार ने क्या कार्रवाई करी।
Sanju Verma, 10 second rebuttal because I'm really, we need to get the facts clear here, then we really need to move on. Yes, yes. Sanju Verma, please.
Priya, now I need to make this very, very clear. और ये जो यहाँ पर महाशय बैठे हैं, उनके खिलाफ कानूनी कार्यवाही भी होगी, इन्हें कोर्ट में भी घसीट कर लिया जाएगा। संजय सरोज has nothing to do with the BJP, ये हमने उसी वक्त पब्लिकली डिक्लेयर किया था। इसलिए यहाँ बैठकर अनाप शनाप बोलना बंद करिए, नहीं तो कोर्ट की कार्यवाही के लिए
Let me come back to the present. Okay, now let's tell you what Mr. Ajay Rai has done today. You just heard him earlier. 2 days ago, we saw how Indian Rafales, Jaguars, Sukhois were roaring on Ganga Expressway. Today, Mr. Ajay Rai comes out flaunting a toy plane with lemon and chilies hanging on it and asking when is India going to take action and why are these Rafales sitting in the hangar even 12 days after the attack. Major General Rajan Kochar, what we understood after PM met his war cabinet is that he has given full operational freedom to the forces. The time, the target and the mode will be decided by the forces. So is it okay to conclude that when Ajay Rai is egging on the government to act and questioning inaction, he's questioning the forces?
Definitely, Priya. I'll just make a brief comment of what I've heard so far and then I will come to your question. There are supposedly 35 OGWs who have been identified for the pahalgam incident. Do you people expect these political people who are speaking in, who are wanting a judicial probe, do you want every time the Indian Army or the security forces catches a OGW, you want a judicial probe to say that whether he is innocent or he is guilty? You have to understand that this demand is unjustified at this point of time. We are facing a crisis, aren't we in anger to see that 26 of our people have been massacred in this manner? You all have to understand the whole nation is in anger today. And you are asking for a judicial probe. It's a shame.
Sir,
now I'll come to this question of this gentleman.
Ajay Rai.
सबूत मिलेगा आपको, आप उसके लिए इंतजार कीजिए. This is not the time to ask for all these things. And I would like to answer your question, Priya, now. You know, sometimes I feel that something is wrong with the psyche of these people who make such statements. Showing a toy plane. See, Prime Minister Modi has given the mandate to the 3 service chiefs at the CDS. And I want to remind all the viewers here that when we went for the 1971 war, General Manekshaw asked for 6 months' time to prepare himself to fight this war. We are not asking for 6 months because the Indian Army today is quite well prepared. It's not like the 1971 situation. But you have to give time for the Indian Army to properly plan and execute an operation which will give success. What is the point of hastily going into an operation and you have not fully planned for it?
Yes.
And you must understand that once we take an action, there is going to be a response from Pakistan. We have to be prepared for that response because that might lead you into a war.
Yes. Kapil Madan, would you like to explain the strategy that UP Congress chief had behind his Toy Story?
Let me just say one thing very, very clearly, and I'll be very, very brief. I will just try to request Mr. Major General Kocher's memory jog a little bit. When 26/11 happened, I would just wanted to remind him, since he is not a political person, our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the spot, just near Taj Hotel, did a press conference, and he has also raised critical questions concerning our national security back then. Now it is very natural and obvious for every individual, every citizen of this country who wants that our country should give a befitting response to Pakistan, and nobody has any doubt. But what Mr. Major General Kocher is trying to say is that please don't question the timing. That will be decided by the government, and that will be decided by the armed forces. Of course, yes, no one is disputing that. But the fact remains today, as of now, we don't have any report that suggests where was the security failure, what led to this particular attack.
Sir, at the all-party meeting that was called by the government, these details were shared with the opposition leaders. It's been over 11 days.
Priya, hold on. Priya, hold on. Was Honorable Prime Minister there in that meeting? The answer is no.
Sir, do you want information or do you want it from Prime Minister's mouth? You said you want information. Wasn't information given?
Hold on. So, hold on, Priya. Allow me to make my point. When 26/11 happened, our Honorable Prime Minister went there right after near the Taj Hotel, and he did a press conference. Now, is it not incumbent that the opposition, when you have a meeting on such a critical issue, the Honorable Prime Minister should have led by the front and should have disclosed what has happened, and should have also acknowledged the fact that where we committed a mistake. Rather, one of their leader did acknowledge that there was indeed some lapse. But where is the lapse? What have we done about it?
That investigation is on, but here I'm not here to defend the government. All these questions, extremely valid, extremely pertinent, extremely important questions. They must be asked of the government. But is a senior leader flaunting a toy plane? Is that the way to do this? How do you expect anybody to take Congress or its intent seriously when Mr. Ajay Rai, and he is not a fly-by-night Congress leader, वो बहुत ही experienced आदमी है, यूपी कांग्रेस के चीफ हैं, अब वो ऐसे खिलौने, is national security a game?
Priya, please, let me just remind you, their leaders said that they will be sending chudiyan to Honorable Prime Minister Manmohan Singh back then. That was the level of, the criticism Honorable Minister Manmohan Singh faced from BJP.
Since we are talking about 26/11, Sanju Verma, I will bring you in because Mr. Madan has mentioned 26/11. Sir, आपने रिटायर्ड एयर चीफ मार्शल का तो सुना ही होगा ना, फाली होमी मेजर ने क्या बोला था कि वो गए थे एक्शन पूछने के लिए और उनको परमिशन नहीं मिली थी. अब वहां पे क्या नींबू था, क्या मिर्ची था और क्या टॉय था, बता दीजिए.
May I come in? Priya, first and foremost, I am glad that Kapil Madan raised the issue of 26/11. 26/11 Mumbai terror attack left 166 people as victims of that heinous attack. अभी 48 hours खत्म हुए नहीं थे 26/11 को, and Rahul Gandhi was busy partying at Chhatarpur Farms, attending the wedding festivities of Satish Sharma's son. Point number one. Point number two, the then IAF chief Fali Homi Major is on record saying, हम तो 26/11 को अवेंज करना चाहते थे, but Sonia Gandhi's kitchen cabinet / Manmohan Singh refused to give permission to IAF to avenge what happened in Mumbai. The third point, अभी हाल ही में पिछले 6 महीने विजय वडेट्टीवार ने एक बहुत ही शर्मनाक स्टेटमेंट दिया था. अगेन, विजय वडेट्टीवार इज अ कांग्रेस लीडर. He said Hemant Karkare was not killed by Pakistani bullets. So, bhai, who killed Hemant Karkare?
Yes, we've seen a lot of historical references, but some lessons are not being learned. I've got just last 30 seconds left. Mr. Dharmendra Yadav, थोड़े दिन पहले यही रफाल और यही लैंडिंग के बारे में अखिलेश यादव जी भी कह रहे थे, कौन सी बड़ी बात है, रात को बत्तियां जला देंगे, लैंडिंग हो जाएगी, ऐसे बात करते हैं.
प्रिया जी, जिस टेक्नोलॉजी की बात भारतीय जनता पार्टी कर रही है, समाजवादी पार्टी ने 2012 से 17 की सरकार में आगरा लखनऊ एक्सप्रेसवे बना करके वो सारे विमान उड़ा चुके हैं। अब भारतीय जनता पार्टी को चीप पब्लिसिटी चाहिए, उसके बारे में बता रहे थे। अब मैं दूसरी बात पर आता हूं, पहलगाम पे आता हूं। देश के प्रधानमंत्री जब सऊदी दौरे को रद्द करके सीधा भारत आए तो देश को लगा कि भारत के प्रधानमंत्री कुछ करेंगे, और उन्होंने बिल्कुल क्विक एक्शन लेते हुए एयर पर ही मीटिंग की। इससे देश को एक विश्वास हुआ कि देश के प्रधानमंत्री सीरियस हैं। लेकिन उसके बाद जब देश के प्रधानमंत्री रैली में चले जाते हैं और रैली में जाकर के बिहार के मुख्यमंत्री के साथ हंसी मजाक करते हैं, तो ऐसा कभी उनके चेहरे से नहीं महसूस हुआ कि इस देश के लोगों ने 26 निर्दोष लोगों को खोया है।
सर, उन्होंने कम से कम ये तो नहीं बोला कि मेरा एक शहीद के परिवार से कोई लेना देना नहीं है, इसलिए मैं उनके घर नहीं जाऊंगा। बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली आई हैव कंप्लीटली रन आउट ऑफ टाइम. सम ऑफ you will stay with me for the Bengal debate, but as we wrap up, let me leave our viewers with this statement, an equivocal statement of intent that was made by Union Defence Minister Rajnath Singh earlier today, as he reiterated the resolve of Indian government of extracting the revenge for Pahalgam massacre.
रक्षा मंत्री के रूप में मेरा दायित्व है कि मैं अपने सैनिकों के साथ मिलकर देश की सीमाओं की सुरक्षा सुनिश्चित करूं, और मेरा यह दायित्व है कि अपनी सेना के साथ मिलकर देश के ऊपर आंख उठाने वालों को मुंहतोड़ जवाब दूं। मैं आपको आश्वस्त करना चाहता हूं, प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में जैसा आप चाहते हैं वैसा हो कर रहे हैं।
The News Hour Special Edition.